right. So, yes, today Bill covered the topic, our agenda. We're just going to compare a little bit of what Enterprise offers versus what ArcGIS Online offers. Those are obviously the two big workhorses for the Esri offerings of GIS data and consumption. And then we'll look at the base deployment of Enterprise. You know, these are just kind of the basic stuff. Look at the deployment and the four major components that you would need or you would need to update in this case, and then current capabilities. So obviously there's many capabilities that are available in 10.8.1 and 10.9 and eventually 10.9.1, kind of the newer versions of Enterprise. But we'll go over a few of the notable ones, the important ones, especially for those of you that are using ArcGIS Online, either all the time or in part with your Enterprise. And then we'll talk about software support. That's always important when you go to upgrade software. And then we'll just cover some basic steps on what does a deployment actually entail. So with that said, I would like to gauge what's being consumed by the audience. So Bill, if you can put up our first poll, I just want to kind of get a feel for
There we go.
There it is.
Should be up there, guys. Go ahead and drop your answers. I'll leave it up here for half a minute or so.
So if you don't have one or the other, just pick 100%. And I guess if you have neither.
Oh shoot! I guess I should have put a. I would presume that.
Hopefully,
if you're
you have one or the other, but not maybe an outlier. So
let's see. All right, guys, I'm gonna go ahead and end that. Boy, it looks like we are pretty across the board. Share some results here.
Okay. One person, 100% AGO, 100% Enterprise. Okay, so yeah, a relative split. People. So you have at your disposal one capacity or another, both systems. So that's good. So if we then go into a comparison, if you're using both, then this probably is a quick overview, but just to recap, Enterprise is an on-premise installation. You would need your own hardware and in the form of servers, one or more servers, depends how you want to deploy that. And that's contrasting Esri's cloud, right? So their software as a service, ArcGIS Online, they're covering all of this stuff that we're talking about on the enterprise side for you. It's in their server deployment, and they do a lot on the backside that until you get into enterprise, you don't really realize what all they're covering for you, and you're just paying for users, right? And setting up an organization. So the big things are the 2 releases a year for enterprise. We are waiting in the wings here for the second one of the year. Currently 10.9, which was released in May, is the first release of 2021, and I would hope that in the next week or 2, maybe 3 weeks, surely by the end of November, we'll have 10.9.1 at our disposal for some installations and upgrades. Contrast that with ArcGIS Online. They do seamless backend updates 4 times a year. You don't really know. There's usually a post or 2 that it's coming, and then all of a sudden you log in to ArcGIS Online Monday morning or on a Wednesday morning, and things have changed. Usually for the good. Occasionally some things don't work right, but there's a lot of new capabilities and updates that happen seamlessly on that side, the ArcGIS Online side. So, depending on your use and your capabilities, that's, sometimes that's really nice to just know that things are being updated and you don't have to do anything. Extendability, another big thing for enterprise. You can, there's various ways to extend it and use it. You can, really just kind of harness everything in enterprise. You can connect things to ArcGIS Online. You can have things, and your REST endpoints be consumed by standalone websites, all kinds of stuff. You can have different ArcGIS server instances that do different things, like managing Internet of Things data, big data, geo event data. You can have image servers that all they're doing is processing imagery. It's very customizable and extendable, whereas ArcGIS Online, not so much. You're kind of at the disposal of whatever Esri is offering at the base ArcGIS Online level and maybe paying for some additional services. But ultimately, they control all of that. So another really important piece, especially in our realm of clientele, being able to connect your enterprise database, your personal data store, one or more databases, but using your enterprise database data directly with enterprise and having your data live there and not in a cloud data store somewhere or another external data store. You can consume and edit and have all your data being sent directly from your enterprise database both ways, right? So edits made in enterprise directly go back into your enterprise database. So very important for a lot of our customers versus Esri's shared space, right? So they have a data store, a Postgres database, multiple databases in the cloud. That's where all of your hosted data is going and living. And we don't, as ArcGIS Online users, we don't have access to that side of things. So an important difference. Users, identity stores built in on enterprise is, kind of the inherent one you get. You can manage everything in enterprise just like you do in ArcGIS Online. But you also have the extendability or the way to change that, and you can use your Windows Active Directory, your LDAP, and harness SAML authentication to allow access to enterprise and certain pieces of enterprise and your all of your data. So for those of you familiar with like Windows Active Directory, you can actually just manage who gets access in your whole community or your organization's users by having things set up in Active Directory and then using it that way. So whereas ArcGIS Online, just built in. So everything's managed in your organization and online. Unlimited viewers, that's important for organizations that have a community presence, right? So if you want to not use ArcGIS Online to view and publish things for the public, you can actually, at the expense of taxing your system, you can have unlimited viewers gaining access to certain things that you set to be public. So public-facing maps and apps, right? Exclusive extensions, we covered some of that. There's an array of things you can do to extend this stuff. And, your server extensions are probably some of the more important ones, but and these are things that you only get by having enterprise and managing all of that hardware and software yourself. And the other thing, it can be completely offline. So you can actually just house it all inside of a non-public system and use it that way, should you choose. We don't see that very often, but it is an option. And, that's something to keep in mind if you're looking for that kind of deployment of your GIS data. So speaking of the deployment, right? So what is the base deployment? For those of you that have it, maybe you're aware, maybe you're not, of what all of the pieces that are making this ArcGIS Enterprise work are. So this is the very basic diagram. You have three of the main software components here. Portal for ArcGIS, which is basically your website. Think of it as the shell of what you see in ArcGIS Online. You log into a website, there's the blue headers with the options, you have all of your content, and it's, you can see the icons and the summaries and build your web maps and your web apps all through Portal, right? And Portal is actually just harnessing your data through ArcGIS Server. So that is your hosting server. That is what's making all the data available through the internet. Giving it a place to be served up. And then the third big one is the ArcGIS data store. Now, the data store is a term that is a general IT term that they've coined, right? So a lot of these are, but this one is important because there's your own data store, which would be like what we call the lowercase data store versus the proper case data store. That is an actual software component that you download and use and is part of this base deployment. This is where, like in ArcGIS Online, your hosted data. So data that would be stored outside of your enterprise database would be going to this data store. And it's used for these hosted feature layers, hosted tile layers, things like that, that have this hosted denomination on them. Also used for various things, geoprocessing and things in the portal website. But most importantly, like for those of us that are consuming this data, is your hosted feature layers and some of your other hosted tile layers. And then the other one, it's one component that has two pieces, right? It's the web adapter. It is your components that are connected, one to portal, one to ArcGIS server. And whenever you type in the URL that's configured with these web adapters, it either takes you to the portal website or the server website, allowing you access to your portal website or your ArcGIS server, like getting to your REST directories or server manager, things like that. For those of you that actually administer this stuff, that's what the web adapters are there for, just routing traffic, load balancer kind of thing. And then the last piece that I think is always important to include here in this diagram is your enterprise database. So for a lot of our clients, they have all their data in SQL Server or Postgres, occasionally Oracle. Those are the three big ones, but you can connect that to your hosting server and break away from the ArcGIS data store and have your own data store. So very important to show how that works and how you can actually publish and consume and pass data back and forth from your enterprise database that you also manage. So one more poll here. Which version of ArcGIS Enterprise are you currently using? I just want to know kind of the age of the enterprise systems out there for our attendees.
Here we go. It's a big drum roll. nobody's clicking less than 10.6. So hey, I'll take that.
That's good. That's good.
Let's see. Looks like we've got everybody. I'm gonna share that. There we go.
Okay, that's great. Nobody lower than 10.6.
Well, someone still needs it, but that's okay.
So half 10.8, 10.8.1, that's great. And one person running 10.9. All right. So 10.8.1 is a big one. 10.7 also. It seems like the more we get down the line of these upgrades, if you look at all the big things that changed in 10.7, the 10.7.1, the 10.8.1, and then now the 10.9 and potentially 10.9.1, there's some really big leaps. So it's extremely important to know that as you get behind a year or two, you're really missing out on a lot of things. So to that point, I'm only, there's tons of stuff, right? I'm looking at the very basic important ones that come into play with enterprise. So if we look at the 10.7, starting at 10.7, things like offline map areas, these are all things that maybe we take for granted in ArcGIS Online that have to be manually added into our enterprise systems based on the releases. But that was a big one. It really cleaned up a lot of our field worker mobility consumption of data. Shared instances, another very, very important piece of enterprise, being able to distribute the ARC socks that are running based on when your data is being consumed or how it's being consumed. If it doesn't need to be consumed all day long, a shared instance will really free up services for your other stuff. Webhooks, being able to do things with Zapier and Integromat or Microsoft Flow. I've seen some really cool use cases with that, and Integromat really good for Survey 123 capabilities if you're using that, being able to automate things. And then the user types, right? So in 10.7.1, things kind of changed. We now have what we all kind of understand as the basic user types of viewer, editor, field worker, creator, and professional. Synonymous with ArcGIS Online now, so it's pretty standard across the board. Helps clear up some confusion. The data store support for cloud storage locations. That's really important for some people. Being able to store things in like a file share on your network or even an Amazon S3 bucket or somewhere in the cloud. So nice to be able to harness data that lives there in our enterprise. Being able to place things in read-only mode. Again, these are big things for admin tasks, but being able to lock it down for an upgrade, right? So very topical to this webinar. Put it in read-only mode, make sure everybody kind of knows something's happening, something's coming, and use notifications and get that in place. Parcel Fabric and Utility Network functionality as user type extensions. For those of you that are aware of these two big things that are nice add-ons to Enterprise, it's very important that we have that. And as we get down the line, those things, instead of being add-ons that we have to pay for separately, they can be included in something like a creator or professional license that you're already getting. Offline workflow for branch versioning, that really ties into the utility network and parcel fabric. That is the Esri's type of versioning, aside from the traditional versioning that we're all used to, that is being used and necessary for parcel fabric and utility network in Enterprise. Experience Builder for Portal, that was a big one in 10.8.1 a year ago. Being able to use Experience Builder to harness data in our enterprise really opened up the door for some of the things that were missing between web apps and maybe ArcGIS Hub. So a good way to kind of bring things together. Shared editing for distributed collaborations. Again, like that's just now happening, and there's a lot more to that than what it says here. That editing was allowed with distributed collaborations between maybe your enterprise and another enterprise, or your enterprise and another ArcGIS Online, but enhancements have been made allowing for more seamless data editing for data coming from your from your enterprise database. So things you should all look into, these topics, if you are, something catches your eye, like, oh, I've been waiting for that, or I want to do that. These are all listed, and I can send links out to where these things are in more in depth on their website. And then hosted feature layer updates in 10.9. So being able to run the join features tool, create related records in one layer, right? Joining in a web map and having that kind of update on the fly, using Arcade to calculate values for hosted feature layers, appending data, just like we see in ArcGIS Online for a long time. Now you can log into your hosted feature layers and append data right there. You don't have to republish or anything. And disabling edits on selected fields. That's another big one if you're using ArcGIS Enterprise with hosted feature layers. And finally, the big one, 10.9 and 10.9.1 are the last versions of Enterprise that will allow publishing with the ArcMap runtime. So over the next few years, all of your ArcMap feature services, that things that were published from ArcMap, will need to be republished by using Pro. So you have 10.9 and 10.9.1 for 4 to 5 years to kind of run that migration and maybe still consume and use ArcMap, but it is going away. So for those of you that have a lot of services published with ArcMap, keep that in the back of your mind. You'll want to get to at least 10.9 or 10.9.1 and start to assess how many feature services and other items that you need to republish. So and support the short-term and long-term stuff. There's a link here. You can go and see, based on what release you have, this nice table. If you're running 10.8.1, it shows you the extended support, goes through July 2024, mature support, and then it's retiring August 1, 2026, right? So retirement of 10.9, these .x versions is a shorter time period. So it's only, 3.5 years. But if you go to 10.9.1, whenever that comes out, you're going to get that 5 to 6 year support window. And that's why this 10.9.1 release, allowing for the last version of Enterprise to publish ArcMap and ArcGIS Pro data, is going to be very important for a lot of you. So keep that in mind. It gives you that window to still do it one way and start to transition things using Arc Pro. So, just real quick, how do we upgrade? For those of you that are wondering if that's why you're here, just know it's very software and IT intensive. It's there's always something that goes, a little bit weird and doesn't, but it's, for the most part, as long as you're not migrating data from a server to another server, it can be relatively straightforward. If everything's staying in place and your version of ArcGIS Enterprise is not too old, you would literally just download the necessary files from my Esri, the install or upgrades for the base deployment components, then procure and download your necessary license files, use those during the install of the various components. And this is the standard rollout of how you upgrade. First, you would do Portal, then Web Adapter for Portal, then Server, and then web adapter for ArcGIS server, and then finally your data store. And obviously there's a lot of different pieces that could come into play given each individual ArcGIS Enterprise deployment, but that's kind of the base thing. And there's a really great website that they have. Just if you type in upgrade ArcGIS Enterprise, and I can send this out too, but it kind of walks you through, much more in depth than this slide, but the basic steps that you would take to upgrade given your current version and the version you're upgrading to. So again, this is 30 minutes is a quick webinar for this topic, but this data is out there. There's a functionality matrix. If you're wondering what sort of functions you're going to gain or lose when you go to 10.9, I would caution you all to wait until 10.9.1 comes out, given the support length that you get at the 10.9.1 level versus the 10.9. But if you're wondering right now, you can look at 10.9. There won't be a lot of changes, but maybe a few. So this is out there. And then every year they release a new version of architecting the ArcGIS platform best practices. It's lengthy, 100 pages or so, but there's a lot of good data in there for those of us that are in charge of administering and maintaining ArcGIS Enterprise. So I got to talk fast. I think that, yeah, that's the end. I'll package up some of these links if you guys are interested, and just kind of show those, send those out so you have those at your disposal. But I want to make sure we've got a little bit of time for questions. I know I'm probably over my time, but
no, you're good. Actually, you're right on time. We do have one question popped up here. Let's see. I've received an error when trying to publish a 3D base map. Does that have anything to do with the version I'm using?
Ooh, I don't know off the top of my head. Error is pretty ambiguous, so it would depend on what the error is and setups and something. Yeah, we'd have to really dig in and see what's going on there.
And that's not a problem. We can definitely follow up with you and see if we can get some answers there. Guys, I'm going to leave it open here for a minute. Any more questions, go ahead and put those in. I'm going to share back over with some contact information. So again, thank you all for attending. Like I mentioned before, we do record all of the webinars here. So once I get that kind of cleaned up and up on YouTube, I'll send you guys the link there. Of course, you can contact us directly. You've got Hunter's email up there, my email as well. Find us on social media. We're all over there. Get a hold of us at the office. We got the number there here at the office. You can always give us a call. More than happy to talk. We do obviously with the enterprise deployments, but we do just auditing of your whole enterprise system with the deployment, and then even maintenance moving forward. If you don't have time or the ability to keep an eye on everything, we can even become your enterprise maintenance service. So a lot of different options. I'll send you guys out some information on that as well. Hunter, I know, like he said, he's going to get you guys some links, and we can send stuff as well in our follow-up email. But please reach out if you need anything. And again, thanks for stopping by, and we hope to see you guys all next year.
See everyone. Thank you.